topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Triversity Talk. I hope everybody is having a very good hump day. And my guest host tonight is Skip Mueller. And who do you have in your lap?
That is Deathcifer. That's our rescue kitten.
Oh my God, he's so cute. So it's actually Skip is my guest co-host, and the cat, I guess, is my guest cat co-host. Every now and then, you know how these animals are. Did you just get scratched?
No. He just jumped off. It's okay. I've got snacks. I'll get him back. So.
Oh, okay. No, you're fine. You don't have to. We don't believe in bribing animals on this show, Skip.
What? That wasn't in the waiver that I signed.
I know, but you know what? We want them to behave naturally as they would in the wild, just like people.
Oh, yes. Yeah, he behaves naturally. Yes, of course, yes. No,
so,
great.
Skip, I am so happy that you agreed to be a co-host.
I'm honored to be nominated.
Skip and I go very, very far back. We met in a bar at the Hotel Faucher in Milford, Pennsylvania, where his husband
during the Black Bear Film Festival. Right, where his husband was working as the sous chef. Mm-hmm. I believe that his husband's name is Death, by the way, D-E-T-H. Yeah, it's Laotian name, so he's from
Laotian. And thank you for saying the word Laotian, because I mess that word up every time. But wasn't he the first sous chef they had there?
He actually was the baking and pastry chef. So he helped out and he helped out with stuff. Yes, in the haunted hotel where
ladies and gentlemen, right. Whether you want to believe this or not, I love the Hotel Faucher, but it was so haunted. And I remember,
our dog saw the ghost too. Our dog Wes.
Did you ever see? So Death would stay there by himself during the week. Skip would go back to work, and you were in North Carolina, I think then.
Yeah,
right?
Good memory. Yeah.
Yeah, and Death would be staying at the hotel, which I think was like late 1800s.
It was 150 or so years old.
It was really an old hotel, and Death had you had the adorable little white Westie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what was
Boz, B-O-Z.
Boz, right? I remember Boz.
Yep.
Boz would wake Death up at night barking, and Death would wake up and see an image of a man in a top hat sitting at the edge of the bed. Okay, this is absolutely true.
And you saw ghosts too. I don't. For some reason, they don't show to me. So
that's because you were in the military. They know about them military people with that linear thinking. I didn't see a ghost, but I experienced things there. Two of my friends who had met there. One had been a priest, and the other believed in Wicca. I love it. It starts out like a joke. A priest and a witch walk into a bar. But this is a true story. They were on like a blind date, a first date. And these two guys sit down on one of the tables. And the tables had glass tops. Mm-hmm. And they order a drink. And the wait person comes out and goes to put the drink down. And the drink had not even hit the tabletop. And the glass shattered.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So we actually offer ghost tours in Milford, Pennsylvania around Halloween, which are really a lot of fun. And that story, I believe, has been incorporated into the ghost tour as the guy in the top hat sitting at the end of the bed.
Wow.
which is just so amazing. Now, Skip, you have always been an enigma to me. You are an unbelievably creative person with screenplays and projects, and yet you came from the military. And again, like many people, right, of a certain age, I hear military. And then when I found out you were gay, I was like, oh my God, you went to the Naval Academy and you were gay. And I've come to find out through people like you and my own community, there's a lot of gay people now in the Naval Academy.
Yeah, right. In the military in general. Yeah.
In the military in general. So initially for you, what was that environment like? Was it warm and fuzzy?
Well, like a lot of people, I joined the military before I fully was out even to myself. So, people figure this out at some point in time. And so for me, it was interesting because as I figured it out, this was before Don't Ask, Don't Tell, when NCIS had actual, witch hunts against people suspected of being gay. So back then, you could get your security clearance taken and get kicked out of the military and sent to actual jail like Leavenworth without any proof, just suspicion of it. So it was really a very strange time. Yeah. And then Don't Ask, Don't Tell, as imperfect as it was still an improvement to that. So, right. But it was a bizarre thing to go through. You couldn't talk to anybody. And I think a lot of people now, this will be a topic when we talk to Marc and Chris, but a lot of the younger GLBT folks, as hard as they may have it today, they don't understand what it was like in the past, where there was no one to talk to, no role models in media that were positive, and being in these institutions. So, but you find people in the military. The military is diverse. You find creative people. You find GLBT folks. It's not what people think from seeing TV and film. Yeah,
exactly. And I think now more than ever, I have certainly met my share from West Point.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is totally true. And we've had people on the show talking about trans, in the military. So things have certainly changed and are out a lot more. So, which brings me to our guest tonight. Okay, I call this segment "I Get By with a Little Help from My Friends." Skip and Marc Aaron James have been friends since high school, and Marc Aaron James is an incredible
Cocoa Beach High School. Yes.
Wow. Right. In Florida. They knew each other in Florida. And Marc Aaron James's music has been called some of the best and most introspective pop music heard in years. He writes really great, quirky stuff. He actually performed with Alan Cumming in London, and he and Skip have been like since high school. I don't have one friend from high school, so that so completely impresses me. You're both creatives. Okay. And then we're so excited to have on the show Chris Rutan, who is now Marc's partner. And Chris is of definitely a definite generation than we are, that grew up in California, had to be much looser and freer, right, than the times all of us came out of. Graduate of Northwestern, musical theater person, performer, producer, photographer, really does it all. And the thing about him is he showed up with a rockin' background tonight and put us all to shame.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay, so without further ado, let's meet Marc Aaron James and Chris Rutan. There they are.
Hello.
Welcome to our stream. I love saying that. Welcome to our stream. How is everybody doing tonight?
All is well.
Yeah, I can't complain. It's good. It's good.
Oh, good. Well, I don't know, Chris. Do you complain when it's not good, or do you go with the flow?
I complain when it's good because if it gets too good, I know I'm like bound for the hospital. So it just
Wow.
I went there quick, but I'm good. Ideal is like stable, like right in between. It's
right.
Like
so you're
my
like
sweet spot.
Feeling stable. Well, that's
I'm feeling
good.
stable.
What are you doing with your hand?
I'm doing the wave,
it's stability wave.
Good now. I'm anticipating the trough that's going to happen next. So
I have often described myself as annoyingly happy. So, which Chris can testify to. I usually am.
Yeah,
Marc,
it's horrible.
Marc, I have to tell you, because I had you on If These Walls Could Talk, and I really wanted you on this show again. You have the most stable, easy person. You just have an easy personality, and it's positive. There's like many of us are going up and down all the time. You are like an even keel.
He's not a high maintenance performer. We've done a lot of events together.
I assure you, it took years of being a mess before I got to
a mess. Okay,
a sort
good.
of zen place. But I am very zen about most things. I have ups and downs, but they're a lot less up and a lot less down than they used to be.
Really? Do you think that comes like with wisdom, with experience?
I think it's experience and just kind of. I also, kind of not read philosophy, but studied philosophies and saw a lot of my friends going through a lot of things that were torture. I just kind of had a philosophy that if it's not going to matter to me 2 weeks from now, I'm not going to let it matter to me now. And there's a lot of stuff that we get really, really upset about that just isn't going to matter 2 weeks from now.
Mm-hmm. But that's, to be able to say that, most people can't get the worry out of their head at the then and now. And then I don't have to tell you, it just becomes more and more and more. And then by 2 weeks, they're a mess.
Yeah, but it's sort of like drinking. I used to drink and get really drunk. Wow. And then I realized I hate being drunk. I hate being hungover. So now I go out and I drink, but I don't drink to the point where I get royally drunk. Similarly, I used to get very upset about little things, or I used to get very, crazy happy about things that didn't really matter. Now I kind of know that's getting drunk. There's just no point.
Wow. I admire, like, you're evolved as opposed to Skip, who I've been out with him.
No.
I've seen you, boy. You like to sling down those drinks, Skip, don't you?
I'm being a good boy tonight.
You are being a good boy. You're not drinking tonight.
Cheers, everybody.
A little rosé. We're being
just a little rosé. Chris, like, what about you?
When it comes to alcohol and drinking?
Yeah, like your philosophies, like, first of all, you're very focused and together for someone, I'll say this, in your age group. Although my daughter is the same age as you, and I find that the people in that age group are very focused and together. I was very disfocused. All I cared about was being let into Studio 54.
Totally.
And being a bathing suit model. Those were my ambitions back then.
Totally. I mean, I definitely want to be a bathing suit model still. So
I knew it.
We're working on that. That's like, tomorrow's audition. No. I don't know. On paper, I look put together, but as Marc would attest, I'm usually a shit show. So, we all are, we all are to some extent, but
I don't think you're a shit show. I think we all perceive ourselves as going through terrible, terrible things.
Totally.
Right.
But
he's more.
Yeah.
He doesn't like to drink either, but he's a stoner.
Yeah, I'm a little stoner. I just got outed as a stoner. Great.
You were just outed as a stoner. Marc outed you as a stoner.
I apologize.
The alcohol just isn't doing it for me anymore. I think it's just I get headaches and I get dried out, and I feel like I'm only like onboarding the negative effects of alcohol and none of the positives. And people are like, oh, the positives are like you can talk to people, you're gonna dance, it's gonna be this thing. I'm like, I'll talk to anyone sober. I'll jump onto the dance floor sober. So it's like, I don't know if I'm benefiting from any of those like quote positive things from drinking now, but I do smoke like a fish or smoke like a chimney. That's like
a fish.
Smoke like
I was gonna say
what about
swim like a chimney?
Right, those swimming chimneys. You never know when one's gonna go past you.
Yeah.
What about like edibles?
Or you'll find a little retired Santa moment up there. Maybe you're swimming through the chimney and,
Right. You'll find a stuck Santa up there. Absolutely. Every now and then. So this is a question for the three of you. Actually, all three of you are creative, which is great. I'm definitely drawn to creative people. How do you think being in a relationship helps your creativity? Skip, you can go first. You're the co-host.
Oh, to answer that question, I have to out myself as being a serial entrepreneur on top of being, so that's two different tracks, you know, and being a creative, aside from that, you know, it's a high level of risk. It's a risk reward kind of a thing. You have to put in all this time and it's risky. And having a partner who supports that and believes in it is very important, because your partner is on that ride with you. You have to both be in that same boat, and it affects everything in your life, your, you know, ability to travel, your goals and things as a couple. And so you have to have a lot of communication about that and really talk about things so that you just don't blindside your partner with making some big commitment, whether it's financial or time or travel for the creative project or for the entrepreneurial stuff. And that you learn it, you do better over time with that. So I think, you know, any given moment, my husband Death is ready to kill me because, you know,
there you go. Now the truth comes out.
So, but now over to Marc and Chris.
Yeah.
Chris was definitely worried about us doing the same thing, and we would have problems with it at first. Mm-hmm. But I personally think it's a huge asset to have somebody, as long as you're not competing with each other and you respect the other person's work. Right. Like, I know Chris's writing and I respect it. I think he's a very good writer and a very different songwriter than I am. So I like playing stuff for him, even though he's not a fan of the kind of music I do, and I don't usually listen to the kind of stuff he does. But we both have written musicals, and very different kinds of musicals. We both, I think, hold each other accountable for getting stuff done. You know, I know that he's really working on his play right now a lot, and he'll ask me. I'm a good song fixer, so I'll help fix songs of his.
Song fixer, I like that. Right,
song doctor.
So a lot of times I ask Chris for advice on how a song. Like, he helped me speed up a song that I didn't hear needed to be sped. I love having that to bounce off of. But if it becomes a competition, or you get jealous of, you know, one of us has a huge hit, that can be a struggle. I want to lift up everything he does, and I hope that he wants to lift up everything I do.
Yeah, I think initially I was like wanting the whole vibe where like I'd be in a show, or my show's on Broadway and my husband shows up and he has a bouquet and he was like, that was great. Right. And that's it, you know, and like, it's like, great, I have my lane, you have yours. And so like Marc said, I was worried we're both writing musicals. I think that's our biggest overlap. But I mean, like, we get to perform together all the time in cabaret spaces throughout New York. And he like really pulled me into that scene to the point where I'm performing so much that if someone needs me to sing a song tonight, tomorrow, it's like, I'm ready because I'm doing it. It's in the muscle memory. Like, we're hitting it every week. And that's huge. Of like the community that he's brought me into has been massive. And like me sharing my photography in that community and me also performing for that community. But I think with the writing, and especially with like, I think this happens really with friends too. If the creative thing is in the same lane as you, the good news stings a little bit, right? So like, for example, if I'm like, don't identify as like an actor, and my TV friend books a pilot and all of a sudden it goes and now they have $200,000 in the bank. All of a sudden I can go like, yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. If someone goes, I just booked Fiyero and Wicked on Broadway, or my show is being put on at the Public, my heart sinks, right? Because you want it. You want the same thing. So I think I can even feel it in myself, like Marc's applying to this, you know, this writer support lab thing, right? And as he's filling out the application, there's something happening in me that's like, well, I'm supposed to apply too. And like, what if he gets in? What if I don't? Like, all of these things. But I think, you know, we've been together over 2.5 years now. And I think we're symbiotically working better creatively. And this song doctor thing, I mean, I've been, you know, writing up the last couple of songs and kind of dotting T's and crossing T's and dotting I's, and on this whole project that's taken me 4 or 5 years. And I can play a song for him and he'll be like, cut that line doesn't work. And then it's like, bam, bam. And I'm like, I'm done with the song, you know? Right. So like a lot of times that last extra help, and I think he's brilliant at giving feedback on songwriting because he does it every week, like a muscle. He shows up every week and, you know, writes, which is really admirable. I write more from like a, you know, feel the need therapy, vent, you know, improvise on the piano, turn that into a song. And Marc will sit down and say, I'm writing a song. And no matter what comes out, he'll get something done. So our processes are different. I think we're learning from each other. We're definitely inspired by each other, I'd say, just seeing him perform and seeing me perform and, you know, getting to share this life together. It's been like very awesome. But I'd say initially, and I think for a lot of people, like, it's hard for artists to date artists, you know, like you look at last 5 years and like, you know, he rises as a writer and she's still working summer stock. You know, it's like all of these imbalances. Yeah, but that was a long answer to that. But overall, it's gotten really amazing. But I think
that's actually a really great answer and a very generous answer.
Yeah, and if I could throw in real quick on that, it's interesting because we've never talked about that topic before. It's really fascinating about you being in the same lane there, because I'm married to a creative also, but we are not, we don't even have overlapping circles, because my husband is a chef, a fine dining chef, both culinary and baking and pastry, who does just beautiful things. And he's also, a few years ago, he had several months off between chef gigs, and he just taught himself to be an artist. So we have an art collection in storage in Florida from a house we sold years ago, but we now have a house full of new art that my husband made. Like, that's a piece behind me, that's his name in Laotian. But we have some more colorful, more vividly beautiful ones out in the living room. But it's just, but yeah. So we really we have that, but it's very different from what you two are dealing with. Like, we really can't help each other. I can't help him with chef stuff. He doesn't critique my screenplays, so it's yeah.
Right, but it's the fact that this is what I've always admired with your relationship, Skip. Death has always respected when you're doing one of your entrepreneurial things, which often involves going hither, dither, yonder, meetings, doing this, doing that, getting revved up, the risk, the this, the that, and he'll get a chef job like in Wyoming or wherever it was.
Maldives, yeah, wherever.
Yeah, I know. He goes to such terrible places. My heart breaks for him. Since he left the Hotel Fauchère, he has gone to the most exclusive places in the world.
No more ghosts in the no ghosts in the Maldives.
More ghosts, but beautiful. And because he's such a high level chef, he works in this incredible world. And Skip, you're there digging your heels in. So how is that for you? Are you happy for him? I mean, I know you miss him, but what are you experiencing at that time?
Well, yeah, it's just, I just think that I feel like in my entrepreneurial creative career, I feel like I've been running a marathon at a sprint pace. So, and things haven't, I've come really close to some big success points and things that just didn't happen due to utterly
nothing you could control.
Stories, like crazy stories. But each step along the way, I meet even more fantastic people. Like the new international venture I'm leading now is through people that I met through the last thing that didn't work out. And, I'm working with people in Australia and Indonesia, and now the creative thing. Now I've got, a couple of really talented directors, both of whom are Emmy nominated, one's an Emmy winner, have asked for projects from me. So now it's a little different story. Instead of just writing a script and hoping to get it in the right hands, now I've got the right hands. Right. And ironically, my problem now is making the time to write, to finish those projects. So again, better problem to have. So
absolutely.
We need something to work out, after all this work. But we get by, we've got a good perspective, I think, and having great friends, who are doing similar things. I mean, look at you and your creative track, Wendy. I mean, you've done all kinds of
Skip, just like you, I'm constantly throwing spaghetti against the wall. And then the pandemic hits and everything I built blew up in one blink of an eye. I mean, everything, every contact, every modeling client. And I had to start from scratch.
Yes.
And I'm not kidding. And then I built a whole new career now. I do this. I'm an MC person. I perform at just about every gay extravaganza. I write political parodies now.
Your documentary films. You've won awards.
We had started that before the pandemic. But I think what I'm hearing here just from everybody, you need the support of a partner. And like Marc and Chris are saying, you can write different kinds of music. All right. But you respect each other. All right. You can help each other out. You have a common goal. And if you're all working on that same common goal, there's no reason for the jealousy to get involved there. Although I will tell you, and we all know people where their careers are similar and they are at each other all the time because of it. And it really, really makes it difficult. Or one person, and this is something I know at least 4 of these people, one person is so controlling in the relationship. And the relationship will be fine as long as the other person doesn't get out of their lane. As you would say, Chris, about the lane, they don't get out of their lane. They know their place and they stay in their lane. But certainly, with what all of us do, it's really important to have that. Especially, I feel times have changed so much. Times are always changing, right? But the pandemic was a really big game changer. All right.
Oh, it changed everything for, I think, all of us. Yeah.
Right. You know, though, Mark, I know people that had their, wonderful $250,000 a year desk job, and they got paid to go home and do that same job. And let me tell you.
Yeah, but I mean, but their social life, the thing they did to get away from that. Not that I'm saying anyone. My career obviously went completely south because most of my career was traveling and performing.
I know.
I couldn't. But I do know people who kept that desk job, but then the thing they would do to blow off steam, the going out to restaurants, or they had the social group they had that went bowling or whatever it was suddenly gone.
Right.
I think we're all going to look back at this 5 or 10 years from now and just be amazed at how much psychological damage there was to having 2.5 years where your life was disrupted.
Well, thank you so much for saying that, because let's talk about club culture, Chris, because this really involves you. I go out to clubs. I go to Stonewall. I go to the Q. Haven't been there recently, but I feel like a lot of the people that are there, it's just business as usual. We had like a big Madonna tribute night at Stonewall the other night, and you all know that monkeypox is running around out there. And I don't have to tell you about COVID. I've had it 3 times. So I was determined to go to this Madonna worship party because my amazing friend, producer of my Wednesday show, and Uber DJ and performer, Chauncey Dandridge, was running this party. So I got all done up like Madonna, and I really did pull it off. And I walked into a room of way too many people, right, on top of each other. And I guess what bothered, but somebody said to me, I said something to someone and they said, well, you're a big girl. You can turn around and walk out. True. I could have. I found a place along the wall where I could dance and watch the show and not have people rubbing up against me. But I guess what bothered me so much was it was like business as usual. It was like being back 3 years ago when there wasn't any of this stuff and nobody there really cared about getting sick or
I'm going to take a controversial stance on this.
Yes, please do, Mark.
I think that the 2.5 years of COVID has made us hyper vigilant and recognizing of what a pandemic is like.
Right.
But I think post-vaccine and boosters and the way monkeypox is transmitted, the influenza has been around for centuries. And really post-vaccine and boosters, unless you're not, that's what COVID is now.
Right.
I think if we allow it to take our lives away for more than the 2.5 years, because you could catch the flu tomorrow, it'll be exactly like catching COVID.
Right.
You're only going to catch monkeypox if you're skin to skin contact, until there's a derivation of it that isn't that. But right now, skin to skin contact with somebody who has it. I'm not saying that these things don't matter or that we shouldn't be vigilant about. I'm wearing a mask in the subway every day. I'm in the subway. But I am also going to Club Cumming and sitting with 200 people or 100 people and singing songs on a microphone that's been shared by all of them. I think we've been trained by COVID to be hyper vigilant, but we now have to be untrained and just remember that there have been diseases that'll make you sick for a week or give you a cough for a week or give you a cold for a week. Those have been around the dawn of time, and that's what these have become for those of us who are vaccinated. Now, don't get me wrong, if there's an Omicron variant that suddenly becomes the death rate goes up again, or it becomes something that is spreading miraculous, but the numbers don't. Right now, the numbers for COVID are about the same numbers.
I don't know, Mark. Can you walk across the street now and get mowed down by a city bike? Yes, you can. So COVID didn't kill you.
It's a lot like terrorism. If we let one event keep us from living our lives, then terrorism wins. I don't want to let COVID win either. And I know that I'm not saying not to be vigilant. I'm not saying that if you're the kind of person that is taking care of an elderly relative or you have respiratory problems, that you shouldn't be hyperly vigilant the way you should have been before COVID. Right. But I do think we can't let it steal our lives away any more than it already has.
Right. I'm on the same page as you are. Chris, what do you feel about that?
I'm not I do live in Hell's Kitchen, but I'm not like your Hell's Kitchen gay that will be at till like rise till 3 a.m. on poppers and Molly. Like that's just not
you.
where I've expressed my gay identity. I'm more of like a gym, like whatever. I'm not gonna get into that. But I do think I think the numbers is what brings me peace. You know, if I walk into a room and I know that we're not overblown, we're not overworked, you know, like in the hospitals, we're not, you know, it's not out of control, then I've been a little more fine with it. And I think that's been a couple months now, especially with the summer and stuff, where it just feels like, you know, places are packed again, Broadway shows are running again.
Yep.
They're auditioning in Ripley Greer today, you know, like we're back in person for, you know, these theater things.
God for that.
Yeah, of course. And I think like, well, coming back to the $2,000 desk job, you know, my brother and his fiance, they both work in tech. So the moment that they got tech jobs, they got better opportunities, and they're working from home like an artist is, you know, like I used to pride myself because I make the majority of my money through photography, that like I can go shoot for 2 hours and make a lot of money in a little amount of time. I don't have 40 hours a week, but then, I get to wake up when I want. I can go to the gym in the middle of the day. There's no one telling me what to do. I can control my schedule, which I still have a ton of freedom. But when I saw these people like my brother going to workout classes in the middle of the day and starting at 10 and working like very lightly till 7 or 8 p.m., making 150, 200K, I'm like, I can do that. Like, sorry, you know, but like, let me do that. Like, let me do that.
This goes back to the jealousy thing.
Yeah, I'm jealous of everyone. That's clearly the theme tonight. But you know, I do think, you know, it was, you know, people had worked at Zoom right before my one of my best friend's brothers worked at Zoom right before the pandemic. Right when it hit, all of their stock just shot up, and then they don't have to work anymore. Like it's literally, but then us artists, you know, I moved to New York a month and a half, 2 months before COVID. Moved into my new sublet in Harlem on March 15th, like right when it went down. And so the guy that I was subletting from, his Florida show got canceled. So I'm like, I'm out of a place to live. Do I go back to California? He goes, no, I'm going back to Kansas. Will you stay in my room? And so then I just stayed, and I just decided to stay the entire pandemic. I didn't leave to live anywhere else besides New York. So like my first 2 years of that was deep in COVID. And luckily, the photography career progressed 2.5 years because people still wanted photos, or I was, you know, working privately. And like, then I have this business, and now I'm sitting here 2.5 years into my New York journey, almost 3, and I barely knocked on the musical theater door, which is the reason why I came here. Like, I was living in LA, doing photography, doing music, doing film, and I was like, I want to work in musical theater. That's where my heart is. I don't care what hat I'm wearing. I don't care if I'm writing or if I'm performing. This is the industry I want to be in. That's why I moved. And the one thing I came here for with the pandemic was taken away. And I got like everything else: a wonderful partner, a boyfriend, friends, a photography career, a life in New York, a community, all of these people, right? Like it was just like this whole amazing thing. And then, but because Broadway's dead, there's no trickle down. Therefore, none of us are working until the contracts that were even written before the pandemic are done, right? So I think, so it's a little frustrating because I'm really eager to try to get my life looking more musical theater than photography. But, you know, as a theater person, it like as a performer, it went to literal zero, right? So like with some people, like their entire existence in artistry was reduced to nothing, right? Just based on like the opportunity or the format, or like, I can't do this virtually. I can only do it in person or live. So I'm very happy there with the auditions. They're still having submissions versus these in-person auditions yet, but now callbacks are in person. So at least when you're booking something now, you can be in the room and show them who you are, and they can see how tall you are and like all of these things. But before, I knew people booking like films with like Sigourney Weaver off of tapes. Like they weren't even looking.
People are very mad right now.
Right.
Wait, what?
I said short people are very mad right now. They can't Zoom audition.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my little take on that, I guess.
Well, as far as your take goes on that, here's what I can tell you. I'm up and running again. I shot a commercial yesterday. I'm getting called for things left and right. That's the upside. And there have been a few in person. Most of them, as Chris pointed out, are on Zoom. All right. Zoom is not a great medium for me. Whatever sparkle I can bring into the room, no matter what I do on Zoom, it's not the same thing. And plus, we're competing. I really feel they were calling in everybody. It's now a buyer's market. Y'all know that. Now they can really call the shots. And if they're going to interview people on Zoom, they can interview them from all over the place. I know people like living in freaking New Hampshire that are working all the time, that are not in a major city. How are they able to do that, right? I came to New York a long time ago, Chris, just like you did, because this was the place that you came to. You came to New York or LA. Mark, you know this. Skip, you know this too, to make your career. Now, because of everything that happened during the pandemic, you can be sending in tapes. They are booking people from Zoom auditions. Here's what I think. I've interviewed agents on my other show. I've talked to a lot of people in the industry. Most people think there will be a hybrid model eventually, which will be, we'll do things live, we'll do things on Zoom, but it won't all be like so Zoom heavy. And you know what, as for you really laid a lot of great groundwork in 2.5 years. Forgive me, but I didn't know that you came here right before the pandemic. Look at everything that happened for you. And you know, Marc probably would not be in your life. Think about it.
If I what?
We met before the pandemic, but
we met, on January 12th.
Right. And like really like 8 weeks later, March 12th, everything shut down. Yeah. You know, so the universe, I don't know if you believe in that, but Skip knows I really believe in that. The universe brings us things sometimes that we're not expecting. You know, you have a photography career, you have a great partner, you know, and now they are starting to have more auditions in person. So, you know, for all of us, right? Skip, you too. Look what happened to you. Now you've met people. You met the people you were trying to meet. Now you met them, and you're saying you don't have enough time to write.
I mean, life is crazy. You know, I mean,
life is crazy.
Yeah, but it's not been boring. I can tell you that. And you know, I was working in Europe up until COVID, and I mean, a pretty funny story. We were closing the deal that was going to presumably get my business acquired. That deal was going to close the second week of March of 2020. I was there the first week of March for a bunch of meetings, watching COVID get worse every day, watching the news in London from my hotel room, and then all my meetings canceled the next week because people were stuck in foreign countries that were supposed to be on this deal, and just never constituted it. But it's fine. But, you know, better things come. I hate to use that cliche, but, you know, a door closes, something else opens, blah, blah, blah.
I had a similar experience and better things didn't come. I had a show that, you know, I wrote a show that had a lot of momentum because it had just been awarded the NIMH Festival. Yep. And then all of a sudden theater was over for 2 years. And now, you know, theaters haven't been working for 2 years. So even there are some new projects being made, most of the smaller theaters are doing Grease and Little Shop of Horrors because they need to make money again. Yeah. So all of a sudden, an unproven first-time writer getting a show on is so much more unlikely than it was before.
It's unlikely, Marc, but I you know, and I will always see the glass half full. I've lived my whole life that way. I have to look 2 years down the pike. Okay, you wrote this project, you know, and this goes for everybody here. You got to learn patience. That's coming from me, who chomps at the bit all the time. But I've had, you know what? The pandemic taught me I had to learn patience. Mm-hmm. I really did. And you wrote the project. You know, Chris, you're working on a musical. All right. You know, these are projects that you are going to be able to get up and running. But it's going to take a bit because society changed so much. And
Marc, God's ear.
It is right up there to God. Believe me, I have that special hello God. Are you listening?
You've got a direct line.
I got that direct line
through Mr. Fudge. Yeah.
Right. Oh, Mr. Fudge is a dog I had that Skip absolutely hated. The dog bit him. The dog was 6 pounds, Mr. Fudge. Mr. Fudge didn't love anyone. He hated me.
I want to know why Skip brought up Mr. Fudge with a pipeline.
Because he never got over it.
No, I haven't. No, he's like the conduit to talking to God now that he's up there.
Skip never got over Mr. Fudge. I do want to talk to the two of you about, you're both from Florida. You're LGBT. You know, came out, I would assume, when you were in Florida. Yeah, both of you.
Not me.
No,
neither of us.
Okay, neither of you did. So it was after. But the Florida you grew up in was a very different Florida now. When you hear about what DeSantis is doing, like what goes through your head, and what goes through the heads of the friends that you have there? Because I have a lot of New York friends that moved down there that are just ignoring the whole thing. It enrages me. Tell me like what your experience is.
Well, first of all, I was an intern for Congressman Bill Nelson. There used to be very liberal engineer, astronauts, forward-thinking people there. I think the problem with Florida's politics right now is the conservatives have a very good handle on making people afraid. And Florida has a lot of people who have only lived in Florida, who are of a certain age, and who vote. And it really comes down to, if you can scare people who are going to vote, you can control anything.
Right.
And that's really what it comes down to. Florida's become what it is because even though we have some big towns like Miami and Orlando where people do get around, most of Florida is Cocoa Beach and Sarasota, where the same population has lived there and never gone anywhere within 200 miles of where they grew up. And they're being told, immigrants are coming for your jobs and crazy liberals are going to take away your guns.
Right.
And the gays want to make your kid be a different gender.
Yeah. They want to turn your kids gay or trans.
And meanwhile, the people who are down there who are liberal are people who are enjoying the beach culture, who are enjoying the LGBT culture, but they don't think their vote is going to matter, and they're not voting. Yeah. Because really, if they did vote en masse, there are more of us than there are of them. They are motivated by fear to vote.
Okay, but you're talking about the apathetic, right? There's a lot of
apathy and people who are not apathetic, but preached to by Fox News and preached to by a fear-based agenda that controls them.
Right, but that wouldn't be the LGBTQ community that is not getting out there and voting, because to your point, it's huge there. Huge. So
that's not true. Unfortunately, it's not huge. It's huge in one area, Miami, South Florida. Yes. And South Florida does not control who's the governor.
Right.
It does not control who goes to the Senate. And even though they have a huge population, even if all the gays in Miami voted, that's not going to outweigh everybody in Jacksonville.
Right. So, like, what do people do then? What are people supposed to do with this?
I mean, my stepmother goes door to door and knocks on doors. You have to make people experience. It has to. One of the biggest changes was television showing Will and Grace. You have to get people. I think the abortion issue is going to be a big player in Florida because there is a youth culture and there are people who are, even Republicans, young Republicans are approaching.
Triggers.
But if we can't convince, there's two big problems. One is a lot of Floridians don't believe in the election process anymore because Trump has convinced them that it's rigged.
Brainwashed.
And when you convince a bunch of people that our democracy doesn't work, they're not going to take part in the democracy.
Although they say vote for me, but it doesn't work if you vote for someone else.
Right. It only works if you vote for me, not the other guy. Right.
And then the other issue is we have a ton of baby boomers down there who have never left that area, who are only educated by Fox News and their churches, and they're going to vote. And if we can't make the women and the LGBTQ people and the people who are, they've stigmatized education. Oh, you're elitist if you went to college somewhere. If we can't get those people who are educated and informed and have experience, who have met a black person, who have met a gay person and have one in their lives, if we can't get those people to vote, then Florida is a lost cause. And frankly, I don't see unless somebody in Florida becomes somebody that people can get passionate about the way Atlanta has.
Yeah.
Unless we get a star like that,
yeah,
I don't see a way to save Florida right now.
No,
Well,
there's also that apathy piece and stuff is one thing, but then also I think a lot of these people just don't understand that if they vote for this party based on because they're taxes, because they just want to pay less taxes.
It's family history. My family votes Republican no matter who it is.
Yeah, and
Right.
they don't care about the social issues. Even people who have gay friends. I know a young mixed race gay couple in Florida. Both of them are from immigrant families. Both of them are mixed race too, who vote, they hook, line, and sinker for Trump because they fear immigration, strangely enough. And they just don't really think that anyone's coming for them, because part of it is this sense of entitlement that these gay folks that are younger, and I'm not meaning you, Chris, because you're better educated on these things. They don't understand how hard it was to get the benefits we have these days. The level of equality, they don't realize it can be very easily taken away.
Exactly.
It's a very human frailty to not have empathy unless you've experienced it's not until you have an immigrant who wants asylum and can't get it and they're your friend.
Yeah.
It's an LGBT person who can't get married and it's your friend. Then suddenly, but most of these people, because gay people don't live in Jacksonville. Well, they live in Jacksonville, but they're not out in Jacksonville. Most Jacksonville, somebody who sees the inequity of Black families not owning homes because they weren't given home loans in Florida.
Right.
People don't understand. If you're a white, older Floridian, you don't know about that stuff, and you have no reason to learn about that stuff. And even if you learned about it, you have all the reasons to not be empathetic about it. And
you're being told through social media and the news that those things aren't even true, because you've got there's a lot of lies out there.
Being sold a bill of goods, hook, line, and sinker. But you know what? I think you said, Marc, you can't teach them empathy, but I personally believe there's got to be a way to reach people. All right. Because right now we are in a big honking mess. We really are.
I tell people on Facebook, if you have friends there, have a frank. People are afraid of frank conversations now too, because of cancel culture and just they're not willing to have the fight over Thanksgiving dinner. But I think we should be having those fights over Thanksgiving dinner.
There you go. Let's all have fights over Thanksgiving dinner. That's something to work for. Well, we're down to the last couple of minutes of our show. Tell our audience something that you want them to know about you. Skip, you can go first.
Ooh, oh boy, this going first thing is going to kill me.
You're the co-host. The co-host always gets to go first.
Okay, gotcha. So, one thing I really want to do again is adventure outdoor travel. So I did a great river rafting trip in Alaska many years ago. My husband and I kayaked portions of the Mekong River through Southeast Asia. And I just want to do another great trip like that, immersed in a foreign culture, staying in the villages, and just really being around those people and wherever it is. I don't even care what continent. So that's one thing I'm really striving for.
That's a wonderful thing. And I know you love diversity, so that would let you experience that. What about you, Marc?
I just am psyched that we get to play live again. I'm hoping to travel more again. The music industry is in such a wreck right now, and how we make money off of music has changed. So I've started a Patreon where I'm giving all my new music to which Skip is a member of. So the only way to hear my new stuff is to become a member of that. And it's like a community built around that. And I'm really loving that. So please find me on Patreon, Marc Aaron James. And other than that, I'm just trying to write and survive and enjoy New York.
Right. And you're part of this writers group though too. And
every Monday. Yep.
Right. Every Monday you're doing that, and you're going to get that play up and running, right?
All the new songs from my play and all the new songs from that writers group are all put up on my Patreon. And if you join it, even for $3 a month, the price of buying me a cup of coffee, you get to hear all of that for free.
Do me a favor, just send me the link again, because I joined Penny Arcade's Patreon when the pandemic started. $5 a month. I don't feel it. And I get wonderful performances from her. Part of that money goes to Penny.
I'll send it out to you. And it's just patreon.com/Marc Aaron James, but just Google me on Patreon.
I get so many.
I'll send it.
Chris, what's your parting shot, Chris, before we leave?
No, we're good.
I want some good luck, I guess, or break legs on finishing up the rest of this. Like, I need all of the prayers to finish this behemoth of a thing, because it's getting so big that I'm just getting stressed out, and I just need to like finish my own version of it so that I can start sending PDFs out. If you're looking for an half Asian 6'2" man that can sing, I'm here hopefully. And coming back last thing with the Florida thing, I find it so just ironic that all of these people are preaching through God that like gayness is a temptation, that it's a sin, or that's a sin, right? And I think for something to be a sin, like a sin, there's temptation to sin. And I think that anyone that calls being gay a temptation or a sin, sorry, is probably dealing with some personal LGBT issues themselves. So,
Lindsey Graham. Yeah.
exactly. Every single Republican basically is in my book.
Right.
I should mention we're starting a program, by the way, where you can hear Chris's new works and my new works and a lot of other people's new works. It's going to be called New Works Mondays, and if you follow me, I'll give you info on that too.
Where is New Works Mondays? And I didn't know you were at Club Cumming performing there. I'm all around. How did I not know that? No one told me.
So we'll see you next Monday.
Well, because you're going to send me something, and then it goes on my master calendar.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
I'm free on Mondays usually. So it's,
perfect.
Yeah.
We'll see you there then.
Okay. Be there or be square. Thank all of you so much for coming on tonight. You're all gems, and blessed to have you in my life. Thank you so much. Good night,
you,
everyone.
So fun.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.